Welcome to SVL Free News and Views for Monday, August the 5th. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I'm here at the Iredell-Statesville School System Administrative Building, and I'll tell you why I'm here very shortly. But thank all of our sponsors: Metro College, Randy Marion, Piedmont Healthcare, Blue Harbor Bank, Fast Fields, Key to Escape, the Escape Room. Make your appointment today at the Escape Room and have a wonderful experience in downtown Statesville. Okay, we're here at the Iredell-Statesville Administrative Building because, as you might be aware, the Iredell-Statesville schools are going back to an early start. They're starting on Thursday, August the 8th. If you have a child registered, there's over 20,000 students in the system, and we felt like it would be a good idea to sit down with Superintendent Brady Johnson and get his thoughts about the upcoming year. He was very excited to share about the story about the orientation they had recently with the new teachers that are coming on board. Here are some pictures from that meeting. He was very excited about the diversity of the teachers that are coming on board and the subject matter they'll be teaching to over 20,000 students here in the Iredell-Statesville school system. He also wanted to talk about two new middle schools that are coming on board, be scheduled very soon, and also on the drawing board is a new high school. He also wanted to talk about how to maximize capacity of existing buildings. Some of the schools are overcrowded or at capacity now, and some have a little bit of capacity. By shifting some things around, how they might do that. And lastly, he wanted to talk about the relocation of two international baccalaureate schools, IB schools. You may be familiar with one here in Statesville and one in Morrisville. They'll be moving very soon to different locations. So let's go with Mike Fuhrman, who sat down with Superintendent Brady Johnson of the Iredell-Statesville School System.
Thanks, Brian. I'm here today at Iredell-Statesville School Central Office with Superintendent Brady Johnson. Mr. Johnson, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for coming by.
Hope you've had a nice summer.
We did. Sure did.
Good.
Nice to have a different pace for a few weeks.
Yep, and that's about to end.
Yeah, it is.
You got the new school year starting on August 8th, Thursday, August 8th. Mm-hmm. And enrollment's looking about 20,400 students. Right. What do you do to get ready for that?
Well, believe it or not, a lot of people have the perception that things are slow in the summer, but they really aren't. Now, our teachers are off in the summer and whatnot, but the administrators continue to work. And the big activity for summer for all school districts is staffing. Mm-hmm. So this summer, we have hired 130 brand new teachers. Mm-hmm. We still have about 20 teaching vacancies as we speak today. That changes on a daily basis because we have people resigning and mm-hmm. moving to other districts mm-hmm. and some last minute retirements and things of that nature. So we spend a bulk of our summer staffing our schools. We also, of course, flip over all of our buildings. All those buildings get a deep cleaning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the floors are stripped and waxed. That's when we do a lot of our heavy painting, mm-hmm. remodeling, things of that nature. Supplies and materials get ordered in the summertime, and schools get restocked and whatnot. Mm-hmm. All of the buses get meticulously gone over and serviced and whatnot. So there's just lots and lots of activities going on.
Now, in terms of the teaching vacancies,
yeah.
In the past we've seen it's been difficult to hire math and teachers for exceptional children mm-hmm. and English maybe. Mm-hmm. You seen the same thing this year?
Yes, the hard to fill vacancies still tend to be the science, mathematics, mm-hmm. exceptional children, okay. EC teachers, and now we're running into an issue with some foreign language positions that are hard to fill.
And there's just a competitive landscape for the people who are qualified to teach in those fields, or people getting out of teaching?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
The profession as a whole, when the recession occurred back in 2009 and then the ensuing years, there was a transition took place in public education. And you saw at every university in North Carolina, the Department of Education shrank in mm-hmm. each of those institutions. Mm-hmm. So young people did not look as favorably on education as a career. The other thing that's really challenging for us is our location. We're very close to Charlotte, we're close to Winston-Salem, so we're in a very competitive job market mm-hmm. with some pretty interesting places for young people to move and, mm-hmm. and get a career. Of course, those systems pay better than we do and whatnot. we have to sell the fact here about the culture and the environment within our school system, that we are a good mix neighborhood. We've got rural areas, we've got some urban areas. We're close to those big cities if you want the nightlife and whatnot. But there is a term that is being circulated now in the teaching profession. It's called teacher deserts. and what people are referring to is a rural area like Union Grove, for example. If you're a 22-year-old graduating from college and you can choose to work in Charlotte versus Union Grove, there's a lot of young people that are going to choose that urban area over a rural area. So that's why it's so important for us as a school system that we grow our own and encourage our high school kids to look at this as a profession and consider coming back home after you graduate from the university.
So it's very similar to healthcare in that regard.
Absolutely,
Very
it
similar,
sure is.
and as far as recruitment and retention. Now, you talked a little bit about getting all your facilities ready for the new school year. You do have some ongoing capital projects in anticipation for, I think, next year. Bring us up to date a little bit about the new middle schools at Third Creek Middle and at Woodland Heights.
Yeah, so we do have 2 schools that are currently under construction. We broke ground on those last fall. One of those buildings is located here in Statesville, Third Creek. It's on the campus of Third Creek Elementary, but it is a middle school, grades 6 through 8. We purchased enough property when we built Third Creek back in 2000 that there was room there to add a middle school. And so the Board of Education was very wise at that time to purchase that extra land, and so now we are constructing a middle school there. Very same case down at the end of Brawley School Road on the campus of Woodland Heights Elementary. When that school was built around 2005-06, the board bought enough land there to add a middle school as well. You'll recall that in 2014 we did have a successful bond referendum, and we had 5 projects. Cool Spring, the Performing Arts Center at North High School and South High School, and these 2 projects.
Okay.
And so those projects are well underway right now, right where we want them to be. They're on time and on budget, and they will be finished next summer, and we anticipate next school year having kids in those buildings.
Now, Third Creek will replace the existing Statesville Middle, and Woodland Heights will replace the existing Brawley Middle.
Yes.
Now, what will you do with those surplus properties afterward?
Yes. So our plan now is our International Baccalaureate program has been very, very successful. That program began back in 2009, and it started with 2 middle schools, Northview here in Statesville and Mount Morn down in Mooresville. Now, both those buildings, Northview and Mount Morn, are old elementary schools, but we put middle schools there. They're very small campuses. The IB program is so popular, we can't expand those programs because we don't have seat space at Northview and Mount Morn. So our plan is, when these new middle schools open, we will move the kids here in Statesville from Statesville Middle to the Third Creek campus. We will renovate Statesville Middle School, and we will move Northview IB to the Statesville Middle campus. Now, that Statesville Middle is going to need to be empty for about a year for us to renovate that. So it'll sit vacant for a year, and then we'll move the kids in. Very same plan down in Mooresville. When Brawley Middle School becomes vacant, we'll go in there, do a renovation. We'll move the kids from Mount Morn to the Brawley campus. That way we'll have seat space and we can expand the middle school IB program.
So the new IB schools would be for the 21-22 school year.
Right. Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Right.
So in addition to those 2 major school construction projects, I guess it was made public, or you learned recently that the district had about $12 million in capital money that the county had been holding as kind of surplus proceeds from past bonds.
Right.
And you've identified, the task force, I should say, has identified some priorities to spend that money. How will that money be used to help students?
The board is looking at hopefully taking care of some projects that would be in the next bond in the future, and see if we can use the proceeds from this unexpected money to reduce the size of that bond. So our Board of Education is in discussions right now, and we do have a facilities task force that's made up of community members and whatnot. So they're engaging the facilities task force to identify projects. Some of the projects that have been looked at but not finalized, we're looking at doing a project over at Statesville High School. The old CTE building over there, the walls have separated from the foundation of that building, so the architects tell us that it's a matter of time until we have to address that. So we're looking at tearing that building down, replacing it with a new building, and it'll be for some CTE classes as well as field houses for athletics and things of that nature. So that's one project we're looking at. Another project the board's looking at is some much needed expansions out at West Iredell High School. Their shop spaces out there are very small. They have outgrown those facilities out there, and so we want to expand career and technical education at West and build some new shops out there. We also have a lot of growth taking place in the southern end of the county, and so we want to add some classrooms at Lakeshore. And now the board will finalize all of this,
right,
and they'll collaborate with the facilities task force to make sure that we're spending money wisely, and that, again, the goal is to knock things off a potential bond and see if we can do them with this unexpected revenue that we got.
Now, looming out there on the horizon is the need for another high school in the south end of the county, and the district already has land for that off exit 42 behind the Lowe's store.
Yes.
Is there a timetable for building that? What's the cost? Where are we on that?
We purchased some land down there several years ago in anticipation of a new high school. A lot of folks know that Lake Norman High School and South Iredell High School, the two schools that serve the southern end of the county, both those schools are out of capacity now. There are no empty seats at either of those schools. We've moved mobile units in at both campuses. When you visit those campuses, you'll see, in addition to classroom space, you just run out of common space. For example, at the cafeterias, there's a lot of kids that have to stand up to eat lunch,
right,
because there's just not a seat for them. So we know that as the growth continues to move its way up from Charlotte and Mooresville deeper into Iredell County, that we do need a new high school. The Facilities Task Force has identified that as the #1 project for Iredell-Statesville schools. And they are in conversations now with county commissioners and school board members and whatnot about the timetable on that. I don't think that there has been any firm date set. It's all preliminary at this stage. It's just in the discussion cycle. But in the near future, I think you'll hear a conversation rise up in the community about the possibility of a school bond sometime within the next year to 5 years.
So when you're talking about a new high school, you're talking 60, 70 million dollars?
Minimum 75 million.
Okay.
For a high school. Yeah.
Okay. So in the meantime, you're going to be looking creatively at ways to possibly shift students around to ease the overcrowding at South and Lake Norman. Maybe that would result in some students shifting to Statesville or West Iredell. Tell us a little bit about the process, if at all, if that'll happen.
Yes. So basically, there's two ways to address growth in a school district. One is to build buildings, obviously, and the other approach, though, is to move your populations around so that you're using existing space. And I think the taxpayers in our community will expect us to look them in the eye and say that you have maximized the resources that we've already given you. So the board has directed the staff here in the administrative unit to begin the process of looking at redistricting some of our schools on the southern end. What we hope to do there is to shift some of the population on the south end a little further north. And we do that by redrawing attendance boundary lines. One of the things that we try to do to make it appealing to parents is to grandfather children, so that if a child has already started at school A and they're going to be redistricted to B, that they would get to finish where they started.
Right.
And that approach is much more amenable with more citizens. So this school year, we will begin that process of looking at redrawing some attendance lines, particularly on the southern and here in the Statesville area.
All right. So a lot on your plate. A lot going on with the district. Got the new school year starting next week. Thanks for taking some time to visit with us today, and we look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your time.